It sounds like the plot of a Hollywood thriller, but for one Ohio community, this is a heartbreaking reality. On one side, we have a young couple, parents to 2 children, tragically found deceased in their home just weeks after their 5th wedding anniversary. On the other side, a highly respected vascular surgeon, a man sworn to save lives, now charged with taking them. Authorities have crossed state lines to make an arrest that has shocked the medical community and devastated a family. Who is Michael McKee? Why was he in the area? And what clues led detectives from a quiet Columbus neighborhood all the way to Illinois? Today we are breaking down the timeline, the evidence, and the disturbing background of the case involving the death of Monique and Spencer Tepe. The breakthrough in this investigation came swiftly, but the details are complex. On January 10th, shortly before noon, 39-year-old Michael David McKee was booked into a corrections facility in Winnebago County, Illinois. This wasn't a random traffic stop. According to Franklin County Municipal Court records, Columbus police had already filed an arrest warrant for McKee. He is currently being held on 2 counts of murder. This arrest marks a significant pivot in a case that began in the final, dark hours of 2023. McKee is now facing what is known as an extradition hearing. For those unfamiliar with the legal term, this is the formal process to transfer a suspect from one state back to the state where the crime was committed. In this case, authorities are working to bring McKee back to Ohio to face these serious charges. But to understand the gravity of this arrest, we have to look at who the victims were and the chilling connection they had to the suspect. Monique Tepe, 39, and her husband, Spencer Tepe, 37, were building a life together in the Weinland Park neighborhood of Columbus. They had just celebrated a milestone, their 5th wedding anniversary, less than 3 weeks before the tragedy. On December 30th, tragedy struck. The couple was found shot inside their home on the 1400 block of North 4th Street. But there is a detail in this report that makes the stomach turn. Their 2 young children were inside the house at the time. Miraculously, reports confirm that both children were found physically unharmed. While we can be thankful for their physical safety, the emotional toll of such an event is unimaginable. As investigators combed through the scene, a puzzling narrative began to emerge. Publicly available information from authorities suggests there were no obvious signs of a robbery. Perhaps even more chilling, there appeared to be no signs of forced entry. In the world of criminal investigation, the absence of forced entry often forces detectives to look at people the victims may have known. And that is exactly where the investigation turned. Detectives narrowed the window of the crime to the early morning hours of December 30th, specifically between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. On January 5th, police released security camera footage from a nearby alley. It showed a figure walking through the darkness, a ghost in the night. But the smoking gun, allegedly, was a vehicle. According to court documents, Columbus detectives identified a specific car that was in the immediate vicinity of the Tepe home shortly before the murders and seen leaving shortly after. Modern police work often relies on digital footprints and surveillance. Detectives didn't just spot the car, they tracked it. They tracked it all the way to Rockford, Illinois. And when they ran the plates and ownership history, the name on the title wasn't a stranger. It was Michael McKee. This brings us to the connection. Michael McKee wasn't just a random suspect. He is the ex-husband of Monique Tepe. This revelation transforms the case from a random act of violence into what appears to be a domestic tragedy of the highest order. But who is Michael McKee really? His resume paints a picture of success that stands in stark contrast to the mugshot we see today. To understand the magnitude of this shock, we have to look closely at the man behind the mugshot. Michael David McKee wasn't a drifter. He wasn't someone known to police on the streets. On paper, he was the embodiment of the American success story. Medical licensure databases reveal that McKee is a highly educated individual. He attended medical school at the Ohio State University, one of the most rigorous paths a student can take. But he didn't stop there. He specialized as a vascular surgeon. Vascular surgery is a high-stakes field. It deals with the veins and arteries that keep us alive. It requires precision, steady hands, and a calm demeanor under pressure. McKee held active medical licenses across the country, practicing in Illinois and California. He was entrusted with lives on a daily basis. However, digging deeper into his professional history, we find our first red flag, or at least a sign of professional turbulence. He held a license in Nevada that lapsed in mid-2025. Clark County court records indicate that McKee is named as one of several doctors in an ongoing personal injury lawsuit. While this isn't uncommon in the high-risk world of surgery, it adds a layer of stress to his recent history. Going back even further, McKee's roots are deep in Ohio. He grew up in the Zanesville area. In high school at Bishop Rosecrans, he was a star. Records from the Ohio High School Athletic Association show he earned honorable mention All-State honors in football during his senior season. He was an academic achiever, a celebrated athlete, and eventually a surgeon. So how does a boy with academic honors, a football star, and a man sworn to the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm, end up in a Winnebago County jail cell, accused of a double homicide? To find the answer, or at least the connection, we have to look at the relationship that started it all. Michael McKee and the victim, Monique Tepe, who was known as Monique Sabatursky at the time, tied the knot in August of 2015. It was supposed to be a new beginning, but Franklin County domestic court records tell us that the fairy tale didn't last long. Less than 2 years later, in May 2017, Monique filed for divorce. At that time, McKee was listed as living all the way in Virginia, likely completing his intense surgical residency program. The distance, the pressure of medical training. We can only speculate on the strain this put on the marriage. Now, there is a detail in the divorce docket that often confuses people. It lists a mutual restraining order. When we hear restraining order, we often think of violence or threats. However, legal experts note that in divorce cases, this is often a standard procedure. It's a financial and asset freeze, preventing either party from emptying bank accounts or selling property while the divorce is pending. Aside from this standard legal maneuver, court records showed no indication of deep animosity. No police reports of domestic violence, no public fights recorded in the file. The divorce was finalized just a month after filing. They went their separate ways. Monique remarried, built a family, and had children. McKee continued his medical career. Which brings us back to that dark morning in December. Years had passed. Why now? Why did a surgeon allegedly drive nearly 400 miles from Illinois to Ohio? What triggered this alleged act of violence years after the relationship ended? These are the questions prosecutors will likely try to answer in the coming months. McKee is currently awaiting extradition. Once he is returned to Ohio, he will face a bond hearing in Franklin County Municipal Court. A grand jury will then review the case for potential indictment. But for the Tepe family, the legal process is just background noise to their grief. 2 young children are now left without their parents. A community is left shattering. And a man who spent his life learning to fix the human body is now accused of destroying 2 lives in an instant. We'll be following this case closely. McKee is brought back to Ohio, and the motive, if there is one, is finally revealed. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss the update on this developing story. This is the Star Feed.